They said no one would come. Not after what we had done. Not after the choices we made. The galaxy had judged us long before we dared to cry out for help. But then they answered. And it wasn't the ones we expected. It wasn't the ones we deserved. It was the humans. Let me ask you something. If you saw a drowning stranger in a raging river, would you leap in to save them? Now, imagine that stranger had tried to push you into that river just moments earlier. Still feeling heroic? Yeah, I didn't think so. Our people, the Varan, weren't innocent. Far from it. We'd spent centuries building empires on the backs of weaker civilizations. We were cruel when we didn't need to be. Greedy when we already had enough. To most of the galaxy, we were the villains of bedtime stories. And when the catastrophe came, when the Syndicate unleashed its wrath upon us for standing in their way, we found out just how alone villains truly are. Our fleets shattered. Our worlds burned. And the silence, oh, the silence, it was deafening. We sent out calls for aid to every corner of the galaxy. Every ally, every trading partner, even the neutral worlds we had once scorned. The response was swift and merciless. It was over, wasn't it? We told ourselves no one would come. Why would they? Why should they? And then the humans arrived. I know what you're thinking. Humans, the hairless, fragile creatures from that insignificant blue planet? Believe me, we thought the same. We underestimated them. Like everyone else in the galaxy did. Like everyone still does. But let me tell you something about humans. They don't save you because you deserve it. They save you because they choose to. Because that's who they are. They came with fire in their eyes and fury in their hearts. Their technology wasn't the best. Their ships weren't the fastest. And their armies were barely half the size of the enemy's. But what they lacked in resources, they made up for in something the galaxy had long forgotten. Sheer, unrelenting defiance. When a human sees injustice, something primal ignites within them. It's not logical, not calculated, it's instinctual. They'll throw themselves into the flames if it means sparing someone else the burn. And that's exactly what they did for us. But here's the thing about humans you need to understand. They didn't come for glory. They didn't come for alliances or riches or some grand strategy. They came because they saw suffering and decided to stop it. Who does that? Who risks everything for people who've done nothing but make enemies? It wasn't just their soldiers either. It was their medics treating our wounded, their engineers rebuilding our shattered defenses, their leaders standing in front of Varan crowds, saying words we hadn't heard in generations. You're not alone anymore. Do you know what that feels like? To believe, for the first time in your existence, that someone sees you as more than your mistakes, more than your failures? It's humbling. It's terrifying. It's everything. But humans didn't just save us. They changed us. They made us question who we were, what we had become, and what we could be if we learned to fight, not for dominance, but for each other. And here's the part you won't believe. When the Syndicate realized what was happening, when they saw that humans had rallied to our side, they didn't retreat. No, they doubled down. Because that's what bullies do when they feel threatened. They escalate. They brought everything they had, thinking it would scare the humans away. Let me tell you it didn't. But that's a story for another time. For now, remember this. When the galaxy turned its back on us, when hope was nothing but a distant memory, humanity stood up and said, "Not today." And that's why, no matter what anyone says about humans, no matter how small or fragile or insignificant they might seem, I'll always believe they are the galaxy's greatest gift. Not because they're perfect, but because they choose to be better. Every single time. But here's the part that keeps me awake at night. What if they hadn't come? What if, in that moment, humanity had turned its back like everyone else did? Would we have even survived? Would we have deserved to? Maybe not. Maybe we were meant to fade into obscurity. Just another forgotten chapter in the galaxy's long history of empires rising and falling. But that's not how humans think. They don't weigh their actions on some cosmic scale of fairness. They don't stop to ask whether the people they're saving are worth it. They just see a need, and they act. It's reckless, it's maddening, and it's beautiful. And maybe, just maybe, that's why they survive when so many others don't. Because their strength isn't in their technology or their weapons or even their numbers. It's in their hearts. in their stubborn refusal to let the darkness win. And when you stand beside them, when you fight beside them, you start to feel it too. That fire, that hope. I wish I could tell you we repaid them, that we stood as tall for them as they did for us. But the truth is, we're still learning what it means to be better, to be more than what we were. And it's not easy. Change never is. But if humans taught us anything, it's that the hardest battles are the ones worth fighting. And so we fight, together now, not for power or conquest, but for something far greater, for a galaxy where no one stands alone, where the call for help is always answered, not because it's easy, but because it's right. So, to the humans who stood with us, who saw our worst and still gave us their best, thank you. You didn't just save us. You reminded us what it means to be alive.